Hello, JCI USA. Welcome to episode 44 of Leadership Live. We're super excited today. I get to have Jessica Haynes of JCI Michigan. She's going to be joining us here in a little bit, and she is going to talk with me about the power of press releases and how you can get in the media. Hello, Jessica. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. When you reached out about talking about the media, that's kind of a cause that's near and dear to my heart. I am a former reporter, turned into an event organizer thanks to my JC career. So lots of good stuff, I think, to share tonight, and hoping that some people have some great questions that I can help you with, especially if you're experiencing some kind of issue with your own chapter, or are starting to look at 2021 and what your chapter can do just to be better prepared moving forward.
Exactly. I'm super excited about this. Amy, welcome to the show. We're glad you could join us. We've got a few people on here, but we were talking a little bit before we started the show just about the fact that so many people I feel like we're not putting out our press enough. And as you and I were talking, there might be a little bit of humbleness about that. And I'm going to let you talk about that as a former reporter and the fact that y'all want these feel-good stories as a reporter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't be humble when it comes to what your chapter is doing, what your organization is doing. You're in charge of your own message, and you are responsible for the promotion of your chapter and your project. So the best way to get that in front of a lot of people is to make sure that you have a really strong media contact list, that you know who you're reaching out to, and you're speaking in their terms. Reporters are always on the hunt for a great story, a feel-good community story, especially with all the election and pandemic, doom and gloom. They are looking for those bright lightnings in the community. And I can't think of anything better than a JC project to brighten that kind of broadcast up. So don't be humble when it comes to talking about your projects. Even if you think it's an insignificant fundraiser that didn't do as well as you hoped, or maybe a project didn't attract so many people as you thought, you still did it. You still did it for the community with a good purpose. And it's an opportunity for you to put out that news and to attract new members who will be encouraged by seeing all these other people having fun and doing some fun activities. And also help you retain your current members, because they're going to have a sense of pride when they see their fellow JCs or themselves on the news screen, on the TV, on the front page of your local newspaper. They're going to love that. They're going to feel a real sense of accomplishment and acknowledgement as well that they are doing good in their communities. So like we were talking about earlier, Miranda, don't be humble when it comes to what your chapter is doing, because reporters do want to know about that. And even if it's not top of mind right now with so many other things going on, they really need those stories more than ever for their audiences.
Exactly. As we were talking about the fact that whether you're for or against Biden or Trump, like, people are tired of seeing them in the news. You turn on any news station, I would love to see the fact that anything, and especially a JC chapter out there planning a virtual Christmas parade, or how they're taking their stockings with Santa, or whatever they call their Christmas events. I would really love to see that, because it puts a little bit more faith in humanity during this doom and gloom. And because that's exactly what 2020 has been for a lot of people. So seeing that out there is just a breath of fresh air almost.
Oh, yeah. And also, just if it puts warms up your heart, think about the journalist that's been having to cover really hectic political rallies, COVID testing sites, responding to what hospitals are putting out in terms of press releases. They need something positive to cover as well. It's always exciting to be on the front lines of a breaking news story. But I can tell you from personal experience, it's even better when you go to that birthday party for a child with cancer and the whole community has come out to celebrate that child, and your chapter was a part of that and putting that birthday celebration together. Or your chapter is involved with a local animal shelter and had a great adoption day, and you get to, hang out with puppies all day and things like that while you're covering a story. That was my favorite story to cover. So that was always bound to catch my eye, and you're bound to get a lot of other media attention. You keep offering those kind of positive stories that they do want to highlight.
Right. Hi, Bill. Thanks for joining us tonight. And so another thing we were also talking about was the fact that when there's maybe you feel like as a local member, you don't need to put out that press release because maybe the newspaper won't pick it up. And there is a chance that the newspaper or the TV or the radio won't pick it up, but there's an even bigger chance that they will.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and some things to keep in mind when you are putting out a press release, making sure all of that information that they're going to need is in that press release. If they don't have to make a follow-up call or an email and they can put it right on their site, it's ready to go, they're going to do that. That's super easy for anyone to do and update the website. Making sure you're thinking in their terms. Reporters love when they have photo and video opportunities. So, for example, you're hosting a skydiving team at your local, fireworks display. That's going to draw some media attention because they want to be right there in the thick of things. They want their viewers to be right there in the thick of things. And if you can offer them the chance to get right up on that field and catch all the action, they're going to love it because that's more clicks for them. It shows that they care about their audience, and the audience is also sick of, the kind of the doom and gloom story. So they also want to see the feel good, and that makes the reporters look good as well, that they're kind of shaking it up a little bit and trying to stay positive as much as they can as well.
Right. And it also looks good on their resume if they're reporting on several different aspects. So they don't always want to be like a criminal reporter or, they want to show that they can report on several different things. Hi, Eldon. Thanks for joining us. And but you said something about the clicks, and that's a very important thing to remember because as most of the news is now done on the internet, their advertisers still pay them per click. And so they want that story that's going to make people be like, oh, let me read that and click it so that they can sell more ads. So it's like a what can you do for me and what can I do for you type scenario. And that's really one that's important to keep in mind, that they want these stories.
Yeah, like the Wyandotte.JCs, they did a beautiful baby contest, and before it had been in person during another event, they actually took it online. That's a perfect example of an awesome gallery that any news outlet would love to have, because not only is it cute babies, right, but those babies all have families, exponential family members who are going to be like, I'm going to click through this entire gallery to see my baby. And then I'm going to share it. So great Aunt, May will see it on Facebook, and, everyone can see the beautiful baby. So, I mean, yeah, thinking in their terms, it's going to get you a lot more return on your investment when it comes to putting in the time to do those press releases, to send them out on a timely basis, and to make sure that you're following up to make sure they received it and that they're interested in covering. Because if they're going to publish the press release, they might be willing to come out to your event. And then, hey, if they're coming out to your event, they might be willing to come to a meeting and maybe see more about the JCs. So not only could you not have landed just some future marketing potential, but you could have also just gotten a new JC member and a really good pipeline for getting your news out there in front of people.
And it's a perfect way to network. Like when I was working for the police department, I was doing press releases and stuff for their events. And I would have reporters call me and be like, hey, do you have anything? Because I need a filler story. So we're always having these things go on, even if it's just a meeting. So you call them and ask them, hey, do you need a filler story? Odds are they do.
Yep.
They still have to, print media still has to fill up 12 pages of newspaper. Radio still has to talk for 30 seconds, even if there's nothing really to talk about. So let's see. Crispin just said, what takes longer, writing an article for the paper or choosing a headline? And how much attention should JCs pay to crafting a creative headline to their press release /email subject line?
Ooh, that's a great question.
It really is.
So what takes longer, writing an article or choosing a headline? Oh man. So when I was a print reporter, you actually had to make the headline fit in a certain way. And even online, you had to make it fit a certain way. So it was always like a really fun riddle once you're done with your article to figure out the best headline. You know, it has to be informative first off, but it also has to catch eyeballs. Again, you got to get those clicks. So editors are really great at that. And I think crowdsourcing to find that really great headline is really key. Puns are always fun. You can always try and do some really fun verbs to really feel like there's a lot of action and engagement with that activity. But really, if you write your press release, you write your article, you're going to get a good sense of what the overall message is about. So make sure that message is in your headline, whether you're, raising pints for puppies with latest fundraiser or donating to save lives during the COVID crisis. Make sure it is really attention grabbing, because a lot of people will only see that headline and it's your one opportunity to grab them. Something that is scientifically proven over and over again is that humans have basically the attention span of a goldfish. So it's basically you got 4 seconds to get them to click that article. I got really good at that when writing food violation reports, because everyone always wanted to know the really nasty, stinky stuff that came up during the food violation reports. And they always clicked because then they had to see, who had that moldy bread, or who was fined for not cleaning their, trash compactor for weeks, and there was, dead stuff all growing up in it and everything. So, I mean, that the headline is definitely key, but it shouldn't be your main focus. Make sure your press release is really thorough, has all that information, so that way, once they click the headline, they really get that content that they need to follow up with you, whether they're going to attend the event, find more information, or simply share it with other people.
And press releases really aren't that hard. It's just the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then you end it with your call to action. And a call to action can be like, hey, we meet the first Monday of every month, or or civic leadership organization. Tell them who we are. Make sure you always put that in there, because that's free marketing for your chapter.
That's key. That boilerplate. I mean, any organization or company or business, whenever you see a press release from them, it always has something at the end. For example, Frankenmuth River Place Shops is a German-themed outdoor shopping mall with more than 40 shops and attractions, blah, blah, blah. It has that basic stuff, and then how to get more information. Include that with everything. Even if you're just putting a meeting reminder, well, hey, let's put our website in, because maybe someone will go to the website, learn more, and actually really want to go to that meeting, versus if they just seen that we were meeting second Monday of the month at the library,
Right, because if they don't know who we are, they're not going to know what we do. And so telling them who we are at that same call to action is perfect.
Very much so.
And so JCI USA just created a new spot in jcmember.com where you can go and make press releases. And I don't know how many of those have seen that, but it actually stays there. So like you can come this year as chairman for a project, and then next year you can just send it to them, and they already have the template.
Exactly.
So because you really, once you have the template built, the body's going to stay the same. And as long as you write it in third person, as you said, to where people, I mean, it's just print and go basically for them.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that you proofread, because we had an error about where we didn't proofread, but it happens.
Always have people proofread. I mean, I write probably at least one press release a week lately, just because we've been so busy and we're doing a lot of different things at work with adding new stores and such, and activities and things like that. So once you get it down, it's really not that hard. But I know it's hard to take that first step. And I will not lie, I had to write a press release today, and I waited a few hours to do it. And then I was able to get it done in less than an hour. I pieced all the pieces together. The headline kind of got me, Crispin. If you're still listening, I was trying to figure out how I could make it not so repetitive. It wasn't the most interesting topic, But once you get into it and you start putting the pieces together, it's like a puzzle where it really quickly comes together at the end, but it's just super frustrating at the first part. And then you probably have that one piece that you're missing at the end that you just don't know where it went, and it's probably under the chair, and then you find it and it's done. You know,
Right.
you're proud of it, it's complete. And then when you send it out and then you see it online or in a print newspaper or a TV reporter is talking about it, that's something that you did. You can be really proud of that.
Yeah. And, back to the not being humble, your mother and your father or your grandmother or whatever, they're still out there clipping every single article that you're in, whether you like it or not, no matter how grown you get. And they will be doing that. So if nothing else, do it just to make your mom and daddy happy, even if we are almost 35 or older.
My dad will text me at like 6 a.m. I just saw you on the news. That was such a nice surprise. I was having my morning coffee about to get ready for work, and there's my beautiful daughter on the TV. And so I'm like, oh, thanks, Dad. How'd I do? And of course, they always say you do great, which is really nice for your confidence level, especially when you have to get up at 3 a.m. to be ready for a 4:30, live shot, and your hair is just not working with you, and it's cold, that sort of thing. So yeah, your family is always going to love it. Your families are going to love it. Even me just sharing that I was going to be on the Leadership Live tonight, my family's like, oh, yay, Jessica, So people want to support you. And if you can share, what you're doing, your JCs are going to appreciate it. And people are really going to see you as a leader because you're making sure that communication is happening. It's happening consistently, and it's happening in a positive manner.
Right. And, kind of still touching that, my mom, she's still excited over me being in the newspaper. And then like my sister, she jokes, she's like, again, or whatever, But it's very exciting for that new member to be in it. And so when we're talking about a lot of these virtual events, still send those out. I know that I mentioned in my last training during Empowerment Summit, was like, if y'all are here attending this as JCs, send it to your paper and be like, JCI Iowa had 14 members that attended this virtual summit, and 2 of them were elected national vice president, yada, 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 yada. Or won this award. And then to see President Gwen do it and President Bethany do it, and the newspaper picked it up, the fact that they won virtual awards or that they were at events, it still shows that, yes, we're in a global pandemic, but we're still trying to find our own way through and how we're doing it. So if you're attending World Congress right now, send that to your newspaper and be like, my chapter is attending World Congress. It's a virtual World Congress, and write it out. And I'm sure if you need help on press releases, I know I'm available. I'm sure I hate to feel like Jessica's available because it might not be, but I'm sure she
No, that's fine. And if you want to send out the presentation or my contact information after this, I'm also pretty findable because I'm literally on every platform. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't really go on Reddit anymore because it really took a weird turn a few years ago. So, but not Reddit, but yeah, you should get out there and be doing that. It's really important. And especially with the virtual events too, the news is used to having everything turn virtual. Reporting was always kind of going virtual. So it doesn't matter if you're having an in-person event or if it's virtual. It does not matter, and it still deserves to be put out there. And if that's the only way you're reaching out to new members or your current members, then you should be promoting that because it's the one thing you're doing. And so you need to keep making sure it's hitting eyeballs.
Right. I definitely agree. And it still just shows that we're still out there. And like you said, so it's, and worst they can do is not put your story out there. And you're no worse off than you were before.
Yeah, exactly. I know one of the big topics, I don't know if you wanted to go into something heavier, Miranda, about coronavirus and what that has kind of meant for marketing and media connections for this year. First off, journalists are really stressed. The news world has been really changing very fast. And it was changing so much, though. I went through one round of layoffs, and I just decided I didn't know if I could make another through another round. And so I switched careers, thankfully. But journalists are working on skeleton crews more than ever before. So, this is the year of grace, where you're supposed to extend kindness and understanding to other people. And that does not exclude the media. It hurts when reporters see people saying, well, the mainstream media and the media is to blame for this, and the media only posts the bad stuff, when a lot of the reporters that you're more likely to work with or communicate with are the people that you're probably walking next to at the grocery store at some point, or who actually do care about your events and probably took their kids to your Halloween haunted house last year. So kind of be mindful of what you're saying about journalists in your area. Obviously everyone's entitled to freedom of speech, but journalists are under tough conditions right now as well. So making sure that you're kind of working with their timing. Don't expect them to be able to jump to cover your story at a moment's notice, but circle back with them, especially if you're trying to send out anything this week, you circle back on Monday. Okay. Don't just think, oh, they weren't really interested, or, oh, it probably wasn't a great press release. It's election week. This is the week that reporters are literally like putting Red Bull in their veins, and they've only eaten old pizza for probably 3 days, and their eyeballs are super red. So don't expect too much from journalists right now. But with coronavirus and how your chapters can kind of tackle it is putting out a statement about what your chapter's doing, in terms of how they're reacting to the pandemic. Are you doing those virtual events? Are you doing those virtual meetings? Is that how you're shifting gears? What are your perspectives on upcoming events or fundraisers that your community knows that the JCs do? So keeping that kind of ahead of that message, so that way you can control it better, is going to be so much more beneficial in the long run for your chapter. If you can put out a positive post, even if it's about something being canceled, your community is going to understand, they're going to care, and they're going to wish you well and say, we will see you next year. We can't wait.
Yeah.
So don't be negative in your messaging. If you can avoid it, make sure whoever is in charge of your messaging maybe isn't going through something really terrible in life right now, which a lot of us are, because you don't want that to come through when you're talking about your chapter and what you're doing. Staying positive is really key this year, and I know it's tough. It's been a tough week for me, but it's been a tough week for a lot of people. So keep that in mind, and it'll go a lot smoother if you just keep that kindness and grace in the back of your head.
And also kind of playing devil's advocate to what you said, but not really, kind of piggybacking and flipping the coin. Let's put it that way, because it's not devil's advocate. But the way that, like you were saying, this is a really rough week. And it might go really well for that reporter that's tired to have something easy to make their job easy. And if you do that press release, super easy for them, you've already done their job for them. So it's helping them out, and they're going to be far more appreciative of that in the long run. And this was something else Jessica and I were talking about before we started the show. Like, ABC wants to report something different than, say, NBC, and NBC wants to report differently than all of those, and Fox. And so if you give them the opportunity by sending it out to all your local ABC, NBC affiliates, they might pick it up, and they want to be the first one to pick up that news story that's something different than the election or coronavirus. So, but like she said, if they don't feel bad that it's on you. Just remember that they're just as busy as the rest of us are during this, trying to adjust.
Oh, yeah. And keep trying it on.
Hi, Judy. Welcome to the show. Thank you. So do you want to do your presentation real quick?
Yeah, I can run through it. And then if there's any questions, I won't be able to see it on the screen, but just stop me and I can answer any questions that are coming through in the chat, if that's okay.
I will let you know if we have any questions.
Okay.
And everybody that's watching, Judy, can you still hear us? Just want to make sure we can hear while we do this presentation, or that our voices are actually coming over. And it's going to take a minute for one of them to tell us yes or no that they can hear us because of the lag.
Is there anybody out there? Sorry.
It does take a few minutes. I guess I could listen on my phone to see. Yep, we can hear it. I can hear it on my phone.
All good?
So. Yep, we're all good.
Awesome. Well, so I developed this presentation kind of interacting with the media, and Miranda and I have really gone over a lot of the key points, but just to kind of give you an overview of maybe what I do and how I can help you in your chapters. So if you do have any questions throughout this presentation, I'll have my contact information at the end. You can feel free to reach out to me on any of these platforms, and I'm happy to answer any questions, take a look at a press release for you, or maybe brainstorm some ideas about how you can maybe jumpstart your interaction with the media. So why I'm presenting today, I was a print and a digital reporter for 5+ years for MLive Media Group. I covered all kinds of stories, from being an intern to being a city reporter to being a business reporter. Anything you can think of, from Trump rallies to hot air balloon festivals to just your regular run-of-the-mill kind of community events and city council meetings, which got very dull after a little bit, but it always kept busy just reporting things for the community. A couple years ago, I made a switch. I'm now the marketing and events director for Frankenmuth River Place Shops. If you haven't heard of us, it's an absolutely beautiful shopping complex in Frankenmuth, Michigan. It's all Bavarian themed. You can see it there in the photo. That's my team. Earlier this year, we were all kind of working from home, and so we are back in the office now, thankfully. We're all happy to be back and planning some really awesome, safe and fun activities for families and visitors to Frankenmuth. The biggest part of my job is actually organizing really big community events and festivals. Our annual Dog Bowl Festival attracts over 100,000 people over Memorial Day weekend, and it was recently proclaimed a nonprofit foundation. So we've been really busy with that. And we did not have Dog Bowl this year. That was really one of the first things I knew I was going to be denied because of the coronavirus pandemic. Being able to put on that festival and host that many dogs and dog lovers, it's literally the best weekend of the year for me because you get to see so many happy faces. I get to cuddle so many puppies, and it's just a great time. But also in 2020, similar to so many of you, our JC events have also been impacted here in Frankenmuth. So, just taking a look at the year, it's been a little crazy, but I was just in a conference earlier today, and they encouraged us to look at the lessons that we've learned from 2020. So hopefully this presentation will be a lesson for you. And you can take away some key points and maybe some ideas and encouragement to understand the media and get ready to approach them with your JC news. So there's a lot of different types of media out there. One of the first things I would recommend if your chapter does not have a media strategy is to look at what's already in your community. You more than likely have a newspaper or maybe a regional magazine, Township Times, that publishes somewhat regularly. There's usually a regional radio station that covers local news. And there's definitely always a TV station, or at least one that seems to show up at the most inopportune moments when you don't really want them to be there, but they are there. So what is exactly in your community, and how can you put together those contacts so you can use them in the future? When we talked about press releases earlier, Miranda and I, talking about those video opportunities, is that included in your press release? Are you thinking in their terms of photos and videos? Is there a human connection? Do you have a common connection with that reporter? Sometimes the best way to connect with someone is to say, oh, I remember meeting you at, again, our Halloween fundraiser last year, and we're doing it again this year. But we're doing something different where we're actually going to have a skeleton dance troupe performing. they're going to love that. They're going to be really appreciative that you reached out to them, that you remembered them, and that you gave them the scoop to go and get that really awesome video. I know I talked about this just a second ago, but be considerate of the elections. If you have any big projects or things that your chapter is trying to accomplish right now, journalists are really overworked. So consider, checking back in next week, checking in to see if they need anything else from you that could help them, push them, or remind them that you did send them a press release. And always make sure that you have photos from past events, because any of these reporters are going to need something visual to go with the story. So if they did not cover your Halloween fundraiser last year, send them a photo from it. They're more than likely going to be able to then publish that very quickly rather than scramble or wait for you to send a photo after the fact. I'm going to actually skip this. There is some great stuff in here, though, like the tips for video interview success. There's a resources slide, so that way you can kind of review. I know I was always nervous about TV interviews. As a marketing director, I was used to being the print reporter, not in front of the camera. So I really needed to kind of quickly reset myself back into being in front of the camera and figuring out what exactly I needed to do to be competent and to put my best face forward. Another key thing for your chapter's events or fundraisers is to have someone in charge of looking out for the media, making sure that you know when they are there, that they know who to talk to, that they know all the things that they should be getting videos and photos and coverage of. They're going to be really appreciative that you're pointing out the really fun stuff and making their job easier. So it's more than likely they're going to spend a little bit more time on that video when you got them a really great shot of that pumpkin catapult hitting the dump truck. Just happened to me a couple weeks ago. With coronavirus happening, be mindful of safe practices happening around you and always make sure to have a mask on hand. You never know when someone might accidentally walk into your feed and you're within 6 feet of them, or if there's people who are frankly being a little disrespectful behind you in the camera and maybe not exactly saying hi to mom, but doing some other colorful hand gestures. So just be careful and be mindful of what is happening around you when you are on camera.
And I'll add with the masks, it also just looks good that your chapter is setting an example.
Exactly.
And so to where people may feel unsafe coming to your events or being around at a meeting, if y'all are doing hybrid meetings, it shows that as an organization, we're doing what we're supposed to do on our part.
Agreed. You need to set the example, whether you're the president of your chapter, the marketing contact for your chapter, or the project chair. You need to be setting the example because reporters are going to ask about how are things different because of COVID? What are you doing differently because of COVID? How are you keeping people safe? So be prepared for those questions because you're going to get them. You know, make sure you note that all of our volunteers are wearing masks when interacting with the public. We have, a volunteer check-in with temperature checks and things like that. Anything that you can say, especially if your event is ongoing. So if you're on the camera on Saturday, they ask about what's happening with COVID practices and you get a great answer and people feel safe, they're more than likely going to come to your event as well. So always be prepared with that little kind of canned answer about what you're doing to keep the public safe.
And that's definitely great for promoting it for Saturday. If they're watching it on Friday and it's still a festival that's Saturday and Sunday, they may have been leery of it on Friday. Exactly. But if they know that you're trying everything in your power to keep everyone safe, then they may come out Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, yeah. All of the event organizers that I spoke to, all of the event kind of research organizations say that people really aren't comfortable going to events without a vaccine readily available, but people also don't want to take the vaccine when it becomes available because they're nervous about it as well. So masks are going to be the new normal for quite some time. And so the sooner and the better you can embrace it, the better your chapter is going to be positioned for success in 2021. Because if you're doing it already in 2020, people know that for next year and are more likely to come out and more likely to be respectful of your chapter as well, for kind of following best practices and keeping people safe and making sure it's really promoted as being safe.
Right. And I'll just add one more thing to that. If you don't have anybody coming out to your event, like from the media, go live on Facebook, because live videos get so much more feedback than pre-recorded videos do anyway, because of fear of missing out, FOMO. And so people want to look at these live videos and see, like, a page that they follow is going live. Why are they going live? And if they see you being safe, they're more than likely going to be more relaxed about coming out, because I'm even a little bit leery around big crowds, and I've been traveling all over. So
they can see what it looks like behind you. Oh, wow, a lot of people are wearing masks. Or, oh, there's not as many people there as I thought there would be. It looks, like I could probably go and keep a buffer around me and such. So yeah, Facebook Live is a great way. I get so nervous for Facebook Lives, though, because you just never know what could happen, either tech or someone walks in front of you or something like that. But it's a great way to, get it right in front of people.
Yeah, I used to be terrified of Facebook Live, and then Leadership Live happened once a week, every week during 2020. So, but then everything's on video in 2020, so it didn't matter.
All right. We're all kind of out of our comfort zone with 2020, so we might as well embrace the virtual aspects of our lives now and really use them. The more you can practice with these tools now, the better you're going to be next year. And the more likely people are going to be to interact and attend your events if you're already trying to get them involved, right?
Exactly.
So once a press release we talked about is super important. And, Miranda mentioned in jcmember.com, there's actually a feature that allows you to create your own press release, which is wonderful, because once you get that template down, it's very easy to save that file and use it as a reference point for future press releases. If you have the boilerplate about who your chapter is, where your members come from and how to get involved, that's something you can easily put at the end of any press release or news alert, just to encourage people to interact with your chapter. But once you send out that press release, I think this is something that a lot of people miss the boat on, is following up afterwards. So making a call, or at least sending an email to make sure that they received your press release, to see if they have any questions, if they need anything, if you can help them in any way to get the story out there. Reporters respond to pressure pretty well. So if you have a really great story, they're more than likely going to thank you for that prompt and get to work to promote it. It's also a great way to invite them to join the JCs, to get them involved and say, hey, we do a lot of the events in town and we're always looking for members. And it would be great because you'd be right at the forefront of any new news item that's coming out. If we're going to do a new event or a new twist on an old fundraiser, you're going to be the first one to know. And that's the words that make a reporter's heart sing if they're the first person to know. Each reporter loves to break news. It's, hard to do because there's so much competition out there. But if you can be the one to kind of promise them that and get them that in, they're going to really love it. And they're more than likely going to keep following up and working with you to get those press releases out. There's another great webinar in the resources page for LinkedIn, just about how to interact with the media. So in case you want to really practice and brush up your skills, you can go ahead and check out that link. And I think this, Miranda, is something you can definitely speak to. Watch out for your content, your website and your Facebook. Make sure someone in your chapter is responding to your comments and to your messages, because you don't want your event to be gone and over after a week and someone checks the email and lo and behold, there was a TV reporter who wanted to come out and do a live shot of your event, and no one got back with them. And so they didn't come out. And so nobody saw the event, and not a lot of people attended the next day, and you don't know if it'll continue next year. Right. So responding to those comments, responding to those messages is going to be very key. Whether they're positive or negative, make sure to respond, because that engagement on your Facebook or other social media platforms, it's going to create, it's going to make that Facebook algorithm really start to work in your favor. We always hear of things going viral, but you don't even have to go viral as long as you have some really strong engagement on your post, whether it's negative or positive. You can control that message and how you respond, and how you, moderate your comments, and how you, use that opportunity to connect with the community. And then, of course, make sure to set a Google alert for your chapter or relevant topics, so you can also share all of the news that comes out about your chapter. Whether it's a TV news headline or something in the print media, making sure that you're sharing those things, so then people do see the good that you're doing in your community.
And not only that, but when you share their content that you've put out, their press release, it's that you give to me, I give to you whole mentality. So if you're sharing the fact that that they covered your video or your event, and they did whatever, so you're living up to your point of contact with them. So there again, it goes back to advertising. They have people clicking their website, and so it's a give and take relationship with the media. But you've got to eventually you'll be able to take more than you give, but you've got to build that relationship at first.
Right. Keep following up and invite them out to things. Make sure you're sharing their news, even if it's maybe not related to your chapter. Maybe it's just something about your city or community that they covered that, the GCs think is really cool. I mean, that's something you can share and say, thanks for the great article, Jane Doe. We appreciate your great coverage of our community. So that will make them look good, because reporters they don't get very many nice messages, I will tell you.
Sure. Especially right now.
Right. So if you can share something nice, it's really going to brighten their day. Like, something that I kept from being a reporter is having an inbox folder just titled nice messages. And I put anything that someone says, whether it's just like, I just thought you did a really great job at the meeting today, and your presentation was great. Or, hey, I saw you on TV. You looked wonderful, and you did such a great job promoting the event. That's when I can go back and reference those when I'm having bad days. And reporters have those as well. So if you can say, after they write an article about your event, thanks so much for the coverage. It really meant a lot. And we had some great attendance, and we really appreciate your coverage. If we can ever be of help to you, please let us know. That's really going to stand out in their minds, because reporters definitely get more than their fair share of angry emails and, mean phone calls and even threats nowadays. So that can really make a big difference and make your press release stand out in pretty much the flood of things that they're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point to nail down. And I don't think we do. I know I personally have not ever sent a thank you note out to a reporter for coming out, but it just goes to show what a little bit of positivity can do for someone.
Oh yeah, everyone needs a little bit of positivity nowadays. So, but I think the key message from this slide, at least, is making sure who is in charge of media relations in your chapter. Is it the president? Is it your membership VP? Do you have a community or external VP who is in charge of all of that, outside communication? Make sure that whoever that person is, that they're really doing due diligence and following up with the community, following up with the public, getting your message out there, sharing relevant things, and following up with them to make sure that you can also celebrate the good things that you're doing. Hey, our post about, Flashback Friday reached a whole bunch of older, past members, and now they want to come back and help out at the next project. You just never know what could happen. So definitely keep trying new things, be innovative. Look at recreating your events as virtual events, and make sure to listen to your community in whichever way they choose to also communicate with you, whether it's a Facebook message or a comment on a news post or simply an email to your chapter president. Make sure you're responding to them, because if you're not supporting your community, then that's not very JC-like, is it? So we're here, we're leaders in our community, and our communities need us more than ever. So follow up, get your practice, watch your content.
And I mean, you mentioned Flashback Friday, and so it brought a little bit of personal to me, because I do the Flashback Fridays for JCI USA. And back to what you were saying about be prepared to answer these comments, but also have like your chapter president or your state president or someone with that super fancy title to be prepared to answer if it does get too negative or too nasty, because we do live in an offensive society. For example, I made a Flashback Friday post, and there was nothing more to it than like the J sets in like 1970. But back in 1970, the way the J sets, or with the way any woman was introduced, is by like, say, Mrs. and I'm going to pick on Eldon because he's up here in my comments, but Mrs. Eldon Russell. They were not known as Mrs. Miranda Williams. They were known as Mrs. and their husband's last name. That's the way it was in the 70s, or prior to the 70s. I guess maybe even before, because the women's movement kind of stopped that. But I literally just copied and pasted and gave credit to the newspaper. And all of a sudden, like, it was terrible that I didn't mention the women's first names. And so I was like, okay, President Justin, here you go, or whatever. I mean, something as little as that, I would have never thought that would have offended anyone.
You don't know.
And exactly. Yeah. I mean, you don't know. I would have, because that's just like, my grandmother would have been offended had you called her anything other than Mrs. Joe Davenport. And the one and only time that she was ever listed in the paper as anything other than Mrs. Joe Davenport was her obituary. So, I mean, but that's just the way it was back then.
Yeah, that was the time.
Yeah, whether it's right or wrong, that's just the way it was. But so definitely have someone on standby with your back, and with that title, whether it be your president or a vice president or someone, and to attack, or to not attack, to take these attacks towards your chapter. Because I mean, I've seen it all over the place. A Halloween event. They were like, I can't believe you're having a Halloween event during coronavirus. But then you flip to another chapter that canceled their Halloween event. And they're like, I can't believe you canceled Halloween.
Exactly. You're not going to make everyone happy this year.
We can't win for losing this year, or really any year. I mean, but the internet does make us make our followers a whole lot braver. So just be prepared to have that backlash, whether it's good or bad.
And have that kind of response in your back pocket. I'd like to share something. We had a food truck festival that we had to cancel, unfortunately, due to event regulations earlier this year. And I actually had to cancel it the weekend of like Labor Day, just before it was getting, it was starting to pick up a little bit with the cases and things like that. And I was just really nervous about announcing it, since it is kind of become a political issue, and I didn't want to I wanted to go and enjoy my weekend and not have to field a million questions or comments and things like that. And one thing that worked out really well for me, surprisingly, when we posted the notice of the cancellation, someone did write something, very angry that my state doesn't require masks, so I don't understand why your state does. And I don't understand why you can't have this thing, and pretty much blaming the governor of Michigan for it. And so I really took a step back and thought about what was my goal. And the goal was to shut down that discussion, right? And to keep it from turning into a political, funnel into mayhem. So I just,
Exactly.
responded very politely and positively. Like, we are so sorry and we understand your frustration. We are unable to have this due to state regulations. We would ask that you please keep this discussion civil, as we want you to enjoy your weekend and we would also like to enjoy our weekend. And it was amazing because the person actually responded and was totally fine. And it seemed like it put out that fire instantly. Because if people can understand anything this year, it's that people need a break, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if people are being honest and saying, this is out of our control and we can't do anything differently at this point, then they're going to give you a break, hopefully. Now, there might be some naysayers, and I'm never afraid of using the hide or delete button if things are really inappropriate or really going off the wall. But if you can find that negative comment and respond sensitively and respectfully to it, your chapter is going to get so many more kudos for that, because people are going to see that in the comments. How you handled that and how you're handling this year is going to speak volumes about your chapter. And it's going to bring people in because they know that you're handling things as well as you can, and they can respect that.
Yeah, and especially like right now, every single Facebook page, every single Facebook post, whether you like it or not, no matter how lighthearted you keep it, you're going to have that quote unquote troll that's just looking for an argument.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so if the squeaky wheel gets the oil, just don't feed it. Handle it very professionally. And when you do, you will get more accolades from handling it professionally than getting back and forth. It's just going to make you look as tacky as that quote unquote internet troll looks.
Exactly. Don't play their game. When they go low, you go high, right?
Exactly.
Keep your standards up and make sure that when you are responding that, if someone is in charge of your media relations, they should know and understand and be trusted to respond respectfully and in a manner that does not come across as negative for your chapter and encourages, that community input in a respectful manner. So if you can find someone for your chapter to handle that and to handle it well, definitely keep them around and make sure that you're writing down what they're doing so that you can share them in the future with whoever might take that position next. Hey, this really worked well last year. Maybe we should try this again. So definitely, keep that person in your back pocket, because it's very valuable to be able to reach out to the media and have those really, really great connections.
Yeah.
So kind of COVID-19, I know some people are in the chat, so maybe if you'd like, you can start to, type up a comment about, how many of your chapters have canceled, postponed, or changed your events, if it was handled positively or negatively, and whether you have a best practice even to share from your chapter. Whether it was taking a contest like the Beautiful Baby contest and making it virtual, going virtual with your races, starting a internet happy hour for the chapter in lieu of regular socials. I would love to read through those and hopefully maybe even include them in this presentation going forward, because this is going to be a big topic for a while still to come. So if we can share those best practices and what's worked for your chapter, I know other chapters and other JCs would love to hear it. Be understanding, there's ways that you can help your community this year that are going to mean more than ever that they've ever done before. So things like a virtual blood drive, that sounds kind of weird, a virtual blood drive, but it's really just, setting up, virtual registration for people to go into clinics on a timely basis on a schedule so they can donate blood. You may not have be able to share the cookies and juice afterwards, but you can still do good. Same with a food or a PPE drive. I know a lot of chapters have ordered masks with their logos on them, and I think that's incredibly great move. Not only are you promoting your chapter in a really positive manner by showing that you want to protect others as well as yourself, but masks are needed more than ever, and there's people in your community who may not have as much access to those as you think. And if you can get those in their hands, then it's going to mean not just, it's not just a simple act of kindness for them. It could literally save their life this year. So those are some great ways you can keep positive and have that positive messaging where you can share those feel-good stories. And whether it's in a press release or whether it's through a Facebook Live or a simple post of someone who received a face mask from you during a PPE drive and sent you an email and a photo saying, hey, you can share this, but thanks so much for the mask. Like I'd been needing one for a long time and could never find them, and supplies are low, and it mattered a lot because now I can go grocery shopping, or now I can go and see my family while social distancing and still feel comfortable. So how you're handling COVID-19 this year is very important. And those press releases are going to be handy in getting out the message about what you're doing about COVID-19. Not only how you're reacting as a chapter, but how you're reacting for your community as well.
Right. And I'll go ahead and give another plug for you guys doing these virtual events. Mm-hmm. The JC Foundation is still giving $5,000 for you to run any event right now. So if you're trying to look for, like she said, masks with your logo on it, if you're doing something like that, the JC Foundation's giving you money for it. So there's really no reason for us not to all be saturating our communities. If you're wanting to do a food drive or anything like that, the only reason that they are denying, well, one of the main reasons that they're denying, I'm not going to say only because I'm not on the foundation. So, but one of the main reasons that they will deny your program or project is because it can't be a pass-through grant. So you can't raise, or you can't get $5,000 for masks and then hand it off to the United Blood Services so that they can put their logo on a mask and hand it out. You have to be the one physically standing there giving out masks. I know Houston, now they're called Houston International JCs have done it. I believe New Jersey and New York, they've done it. There's been several chapters that have gotten this money to go out and do these free, basically for them, free projects just to get their name out in the community. So if you want more information about that, you can reach out to MVP Anna. She can give you more information on the foundation and how to get signed up for the grants. But that's an easy way for you to get out in the community, especially during right now. And just send out these press releases with it, because that's good press for you now. And in 2021, when things are back to our quote unquote new normal, it's just going to continue, because it'll continue to make your presence known. Like people, they forget about us. They forget about anything that's not in the news. As you were saying, we have the attention span of a goldfish. Don't let them forget about you. And once you do the event, send a press release after the event too, saying how many people you helped, especially if they didn't pick it up the first go round. Send it again. They may have just been full on that particular edition of the news or that particular episode of the actual 6 o'clock news or that spot on the radio. Send it out afterwards, because they may be looking for that filler story.
Exactly. They may have been wondering, oh, you know what, we weren't able to cover that event. I wonder how it went. Right. You know? So never know what you might be able to answer for them. And I love the JC Foundation grant. So I'm glad you talked about that, because I mean, if you need advice on how to use that grant and it's free money, there's chapters already doing that kind of stuff. Reach out to them. I'm sure they'd love to share what they've been doing, because they're really proud of it. I remember seeing the photos from the New Jersey Fund, and it's like, that's really incredible and amazing what they're doing and how they're helping. So why not feel that good about yourself and about your chapter as well, right?
Exactly. If you're already out there doing it with what you have, add what the grant from the foundation will give to you, and just think about how many people you can impact then.
Oh yeah. And masks, they were very expensive at first, but they're getting much more inexpensive now, depending on the type you get. So you can really make a big impact with $5,000. And how can you make that money go even further? Maybe you invest your $5,000, but you work with the Rotary Club or the Lions Club in town to match that. Say,
Right.
we'll put in $5,000. You put in $5,000. Let's make $10,000 worth of masks happen and give a mask to literally everyone in our community. I mean,
how great would that look on the news?
Yeah,
I mean, we would all rather see that on the news than election or how many deaths for coronavirus, because that's the way our news is looking here in town right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And everyone's got a very full plate right now, of course, and everyone's got a lot to juggle. But if you can make this work, you're going to feel really great about it, and you can be really proud of it. And it's something that maybe you learn from it this year, so you can do it even better next year. Maybe this year you only get out so many masks. Next year you do even more, or next year you do masks and gloves, or you do a cleaning supply drive for local shelters in your area that are in need. This can be just, the spark that really lights the JC fire in you and in your chapter, if you can get it burning, right?
Right. And I will also add, with that grant, it's not you get one and you can't get any more. So you could get one for this event and then turn around and have it the very next weekend and get another one. So
it's even
definitely
better.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely something to keep in mind. So
is there a deadline for that grant?
No.
I remember seeing something about it, but I didn't see an expiration date. So that's even better, right?
Well, they do it every single year. So they do that, and they do their scholarship program. So they do that every single year, and there's it'll probably end at 2020, but then it'll start back over as soon as 2021. I don't know. I'm not 100% on their fiscal year.
Yeah.
So it may have started over in October for all I know, but it's still going on, and they're still wanting submissions, and they've got money they want to give away. So
let's take it, right? And do something good with it. That's what
continue the movement that they started, because that's where the foundation was started. They just want us to be continued in our community doing positive or creating positive change.
Exactly. So I kind of wanted to summarize what this whole presentation is about. Is really the best practices for going forward. Be in control of your communications, whether it's external, which, public facing, those press releases, or even internal. Are you sending those press releases to your chapter members so they can share it with their contacts or on their LinkedIn profile pages, so they can share it with, their chamber connections? That way they know your message as well. So your whole chapter is consistent with it. Be patient right about now. There's a lot of news happening, but if you believe in your project or achievement, keep moving forward with it. Try new resources. So maybe you sent it to the local newspaper and they didn't print it. Well, don't let that stop you. Keep trying. Reach out to your Chamber of Commerce and see if they can maybe nudge that newspaper to get it printed, or reach out to a local foundation or radio station that might be interested in partnering with you to get it out there. Keep trying. So don't give up, and be positive. So even when delivering bad news, focus on the good news and the future, which has got to be brighter than 2020 has been for many of us. And I wanted to share this from JCI USA because I think they've been doing a really good job of very consistent social media messaging, along with positivity. And I thought this was really nice. I saw this the other day. A morning reminder: don't quit your daydream. Remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think that's just really key and something to remember when you're working with your chapter or even in your own personal life and in your professional life, being positive and being kind of that shining example is going to go a lot further than being kind of the naysayer in the group who isn't really doing much and not really contributing much as well. So be in control, be patient, and be positive. And that's pretty much a lot of all we can do this year as we kind of wait to see what happens with election. We wait to see what happens with a coronavirus vaccine and the ongoing rise in cases, and just kind of the state of the world as it is right now.
So can you go back to that real quick? Because I think this sums up absolutely everything we were talking about. Mm-hmm. I actually made that graphic, and when it come out, I was like, oh man, look how off center it is.
Oh, but, no, I don't see that at all.
The don't quit your daydream is so off center in the circle. But that just goes to show you, like, I see it as the one that made the graphic, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I didn't notice that before I scheduled that post. So
notice it.
You say that, just kind of like, because I put it in the social media calendar too, and I saw a couple of different chapters sharing it, and I was like, oh man, it's off center on everything. But that whole right? Your biggest critic, if that made an impact, just think, don't be scared to send out these stories to the media, because yes, you see the errors in your work, let's say, quote unquote, because I can only see that don't quit your daydream is so far over to the right and not center. But like that is, so that just absolutely was a big thing that just hit me right there. That, and I will also say that back to your be in control of your communications and sending it to your members, there is nothing worse that a member hates, whether they have been super involved or not involved at all. But if somebody that they know is a JC member and they come to them and they're like, hey, I saw in the newspaper that y'all are doing da 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 da, they don't want to look like they don't know what's going on. So if you send that communication to them, then yeah, you can be like, yeah, well, I'll send it to your email. And so then it's on them that they didn't check their email. Exactly. But if they did check their email, they don't necessarily look like they don't know what's going on in their own chapter. And I've seen it so much with local level, with the state levels, or even on the national level, like just that full disclosure of here's what we do, and whether they read it or not, it's on them, but at least you can say that, hey, I sent this to you. Because I've had it happen to me personally. A member find out that we were doing something via a press release, and they were encountered by someone else that knew them, and they were like, I hated looking dumb that I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So definitely always send your press release out to your membership as well.
Yeah. Because, I mean, your members are your greatest ambassadors too, right? Because your members are the ones that are interacting with your Facebook page more often so than the public. And they're the ones going to the chamber meetings or the city council meetings and getting to know they're the movers and shakers in your community. And if they don't know what's going on, then how much are you really communicating to them about what your chapter's even doing and how they can be involved and how they can support the chapter? So
exactly. So if you're looking at that person that asked John Doe about this and he's like, well, I don't know, that person may have been interested in joining, but when they see that lack of communication within at least their own membership, that makes you want to take a step back and be like, whoa, maybe this isn't something I want to join.
Yeah, because it could be confused for lack of engagement, right? Like, well, he doesn't seem like he really likes the JCs. He doesn't even know what's happening with the next event. Yeah. When maybe he did, or he's getting an email like 2 days before the event when they've been knowing about it for a while now. So
exactly.
Yeah. I love that graphic. So I might even make it my desktop just for a little bit because it's pretty. It reminds me of like waking up really early, like on a camping trip, which I actually got to enjoy a few times this year, and like going to look at the stars, like just as it's like either the sun starting to set or starting to rise, and just like that quietness. I think we've all kind of seen it or experienced it some way in 2020, the quiet, like, wow, there's not a lot of cars on the road and I'm just been sitting home for 3 weeks. Like you got a lot of time to self-reflect, and not quitting your daydream has been something that I've been thinking a lot about, and about dreams. And 2020 has all shown us what is most important to us, I think, and what we want to spend our time and resources on. So use that time to reflect, and to make things happen, right?
Yeah, even if it is crooked.
I did not even notice that, so no worries. You're good in my book.
Just that you are your biggest critic.
Exactly. Oh, I totally am. Every time I see myself on TV, I'm like, oh my God, I look so dumb. But my grandma says I look beautiful, so I'm going to go with what grandma says. So,
right.
But again, like Miranda had said, we're both more than willing to help, and happy to look at press releases for anyone. If you have a question about an event, or you're going to be announcing an event cancellation or something like that you're nervous about, feel free to reach out. I've included my email, my Twitter, Instagram, and even my LinkedIn. And someone actually invited me to connect on LinkedIn, so I'm wondering if they're actually on the call. I'm going to exit out of my, I guess I could still be in here. And I also have some of those resources for you as well. So I emailed this to Miranda. If you email either myself or Miranda, we can send this to you if you'd like to use it, or just a reference or anything like that. Hopefully you won't present it as me, because there's a lot of pictures, including this really nice one of my dog, who's pretty much the only reason I'm surviving 2020 right now. So yeah, so I'm happy to answer maybe any questions anyone has and go from there.
We haven't had any yet, but and now I have quit sharing your screen, so you don't have to worry about anybody getting your dog. But I did drop your email also in the comments, so that's there. Awesome. And then, but yeah, if no one has any questions, we will give them a little bit because of the lag. Yeah, I know. And we're also streaming on YouTube and Facebook, so the lag is even more now.
Oh, so does that mean my grandma's going to ask me how to watch a video on YouTube now?
You can send it to her on Facebook. It's also there.
Okay,
it'll be there for replay. Yeah, it never goes away.
Do you want to hear a funny story about my grandma and social media? It's hilarious, actually. I woke up one morning and I was checking Facebook like I always do, and I noticed that my grandma had tagged herself in several of my photos that she wasn't in. And so I called her, and we had some chit chat. I said, hey, Grandma, I noticed that you were tagging yourself in photos. What was that all about? She's like, oh, Jessie, I just love those photos. They're so cute. And so I wanted them to be the first thing I see when I look at my profile.
Oh.
I said, okay, Grandma. Because I didn't even want to try and touch it. Honestly, first off, it's super duper cute. Second off, it literally hurts no one if my Judy Clevenger is tagged in my photos. And third, it would have taken much more time for me to show her or tell her what to do. And it probably would have just, made her frustrated and me frustrated, when I could have just been like, that's really cute, Grandma. Thank you.
Yeah.
Although my grandma always seemed to choose the photos that I didn't think I looked the most cute in, but that's my grandma. So she loves me.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Mm-hmm. Super sweet. So, well, if we don't have any questions, we will close it out. Next week, join us, episode 45. I will have Neil Fitzgerald, who is actually just elected to JCI as our IVP for next year. He's coming on to talk about a training day that they're doing on employment and job interviews and stuff like that. So that's super exciting, because I know several of us, myself included, have lost our jobs due to COVID or whatever. And so it's a great opportunity to come and learn some things and brush up on your interviewing skills, because I've done more of these Zoom interviews than I have else. So I've only actually had 2 in-person interviews, and I've probably had about 35 interviews. Geez. So they're all been over Zoom. Eldon says, thanks for the presentation, Jessica. Lots of great tips. So
thanks, Eldon.
You did an amazing job. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. It was a lot of good information, and I'm glad that it's here for everybody. I might actually even see if one of my program managers, Jesper, can make it into just your presentation part, make it into a YouTube video. So then you can teach your grandmother how to use YouTube.
That would be fun. Perfect way to spend my Thanksgiving day, right?
Yep. So it's either that or gorging yourself on turkey, whichever.
I mean, I can do both. It might sedate me enough to keep me in line when talking to my grandma to have a little bit of turkey first.
Very good point. Thank you, Judy. She says, great job, ladies. So, all right. We will see you next weekend. Thanks again, Jessica, for taking some time out for JCI USA tonight and Leadership Live. Bill Duncan also says, great job. Thanks, Bill. All right. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.